Men and women often have different approaches and attitudes towards marriage. For women, marriage can symbolize freedom, providing an escape from parental care that can sometimes be overbearing. Once married, a woman may strive to exert control over her husband, using various methods to achieve this. From subtle seduction to intense arguments, she aims to gain influence over him. In many cases, the wife succeeds in gaining some level of control over her husband, even managing the family's finances, as he willingly contributes his earnings without questioning how they are spent. Trusting in his wife's ability to manage the money, he may not inquire about its whereabouts, fearing potential conflict. However, if he does express doubt or skepticism, it becomes a matter of personal judgment. In some instances, the wife may respond by withholding intimacy for a short period of time, while in more severe cases, the consequences can be unimaginable. This is why marriage can be seen as freedom for women. On the contrary, for men, marriage can sometimes feel restrictive. Once married, they may experience constant pressure from their wives in various aspects of their lives. To maintain any sense of personal freedom, husbands often feel compelled to hide personal savings from their wives. Unfortunately, in most instances, the wife manages to uncover these hidden stashes. For example, a friend of mine once concealed money in an old TV set on the balcony, only for his wife to discover it when she went searching for salt. The fact that she found money while searching for salt demonstrates how husbands sometimes go to great lengths to maintain a semblance of independence in marriage. But even then, they are not always successful. In conclusion, the differing attitudes and approaches between men and women in marriage can be seen in how they view freedom. While women may find marriage liberating, men may feel restricted and find themselves resorting to secretive measures to maintain a sense of autonomy. Hence, divorce represents a man's freedom from the shackles of marriage. It signifies liberation, although unfortunately, some individuals only come to realize this truth when it's too late. The biting winds of departing autumn pierced the frozen ground with intensity. Every morning, the freezing temperatures turned puddles into delicate sheets of ice, which eagerly crunched beneath the steps of passers-by. The dim sun timidly peeked through the clouds, seemingly apologizing for the cold grip of autumn. Late November, the off-season where fall had ended and winter had yet to arrive. However, the impending arrival of winter loomed like a predator, waiting for the opportune moment to strike its final fatal blow. Its icy breath could already be faintly heard. Snowfalls and frosty blizzards lay in wait, patiently expecting their cue to engulf humanity. In the midst of this, I constantly pondered about my path forward. 46 years of age is not synonymous with old age. I hadn't yet determined my course of action, but I understood that my life needed a drastic change. It's challenging for a once submissive individual to embrace freedom. Throughout my years of marriage, the majority of important decisions were made by my wife. It seemed easier that way as I aimlessly drifted through life, ultimately becoming lost in the process. And now my wife, she too continues drifting, but this time with someone else. Did I love Michelle? I did, and even now, despite my attempts at bravado, that love persists. However, that train has already departed, leaving her as the fortunate, wealthier spouse of another individual. At the very least, he matches her in terms of affluence. As she said during our last encounter, he has much to offer. Of course, I miss Michelle. Her captivating eyes, her tender touch, and her enticing figure. Even till the very end, our intimate moments were exhilarating, passionate, and wild. I crinkled my nose in discomfort. For the past 6 months, there had been an invisible presence in our marriage bed, a third person. She had been having sex with me, not out of love, but because she loved someone else. And all the while, she was thinking about him. The thought of it made me feel sick. I had unknowingly kissed her after her lover, unknowingly tasting the remnants of his love. I could only imagine the mockery they must have made of me. It was all so disgusting. And on top of it all, she had the audacity to offer friendship. She was nothing but a whore. At the start of winter, my son Yura called. "Dad, I'm getting married." His voice was filled with joy. "To Natasha. You remember her, the girl from the orphanage. Congratulations. I'm glad you've made your decision," I replied, waiting to hear more. "Dad, We want to invite you to the wedding. It will be a small gathering, just a few close friends and family. Natasha really wants to meet you. It's on December 6th. Thank you, Yura. I'll try my best to be there. I was genuinely happy for my son. I wanted things to go well for him. Dad, Yura spoke again after a brief pause. Your ex-wife won't be there. I didn't even tell her. I don't want to see her. My son stubbornly refused to acknowledge her as his mother. Yura, she loves you. She's still your mother. I tried to reason with him. What does that have to do with our fight with her? Let's not talk about sad things. Come here. Natasha and I are waiting. Yura disconnected the call. The persistent ringing of the phone snapped me out of my thoughts. It felt as if the person on the other end knew I was home and patiently waited for me to answer. Hello? I answered groggily. Yuri Ivanovich. A pleasant female voice chimed in. I'm calling on behalf of Inga Sergeyevna. Her words were filled with anticipation, as if the mention of that name should have brought me joy. But truth be told, the name held no significance to me. There was a momentary pause on the line, and just as I was about to hang up, the woman continued, Could you please come to the Solid Bank at 12 o'clock? Glancing at the alarm clock, I noticed the time was already 20 minutes past 12. I can't, I replied. The woman sounded genuinely surprised, almost childlike, as she asked, Why not? I sighed, growing more frustrated by the second, because I don't understand why I would need to. I have no intention of taking a loan from your bank. Inga Sergeyevna means nothing to me. By the way, you never introduced yourself. Apologetically, the woman responded, Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Zhana, Inga Sergeyevna's secretary. She wants to talk to you about a job. A job? I exclaimed, taken aback. But I already have a job. Yuri Ivanovich, visiting the bank doesn't commit you to anything. A car will be provided to bring you there, and you can leave whenever you want. The choice is yours. Zhana's voice was soothing, like a warm embrace. Perhaps this was an opportunity for a fresh start. I couldn't help but wonder what Inga had in mind for me, knowing it wouldn't be some mundane managerial position. Jean turned out to be a young blonde girl in an incredibly short skirt. I couldn't help but notice her slender legs in flesh-colored stockings. Hello, Yuri Ivanovich, she exclaimed, her eyes filled with genuine happiness. She opened the massive oak door labeled manager and gestured for me to come in. In the vast office, furnished with modern furniture, there was a large desk occupied by a woman in her 40s wearing a dark green business suit. When she saw me, she smiled and adjusted a strand of white hair that had fallen onto her forehead. Hello, Yuri Ivanovich. Please come in and have a seat. Tea or coffee, she offered. Thank you, but I just had breakfast, I replied, pretending to be naive to annoy the woman. As you wish, she said, unaffected by my response. Before we discuss business, I want you to watch a short video. She pressed a button on her computer, and a black and white film started playing on the large screen mounted on the left wall. The footage showed me confronting Mr. Shumsky's guards on the pavement. I looked at the banker with confusion. This is the footage from the camera in front of your house. I'm acquainted with your neighbor, who kindly provided me with this recording. As far as I know, Mr. Shumsky has not accused you of anything, she explained. Oh no, how predictable. She's attempting to blackmail me. I thought to myself. Inga Sergeyevna smirked in response. Mr. Zagorsky, I didn't ask you to come here to blackmail you. I actually have a job offer for you, she said, almost as if she knew what I was thinking. I remained silent, curious about what she had to say. I need a bodyguard, she continued with a tired smile. I'm going through a difficult time, and I need someone dependable by my side. Based on what I've seen in this movie, she nodded towards the screen. I think you can handle it. I couldn't help but ask, what makes you think I'm reliable? I've done some inquiries about you, she replied, picking up a thin blue folder. And I happen to know a little about your ex-wife Michelle Zagorskaya, now Mrs. Chumskaya. I felt anger boiling inside me. I didn't want to be recommended by someone I considered to be a whore. Did she recommend me to you? Absolutely not, she quickly responded, standing up. I don't need anyone's recommendation. I'm not pressuring you. Take your time to think about it until tomorrow. If you decide, give me a call." With that, she pushed her business card towards me with her index finger, smoothly sliding it across the table. I couldn't help but admire her, even though I couldn't help but notice her skirt could have been longer. The next morning, I dialed a simple number. "Yes." A familiar voice answered. "I'm in. When do I start?" I asked without hesitation. "Immediately. The car is already outside your house," the woman replied before disconnecting the call. As I gazed out the window, a sleek black Lexus with tinted windows caught my attention, parked in front of the entrance. It was then that I made the decision to become the personal bodyguard for Inga Sergeyevna Gerber, the manager of Solid Bank. Leaving my previous job was not an easy task, as my bosses were reluctant to let me go. Skilled turners were hard to come by, and they knew it. However, after much insistence, I was finally given permission to leave at my own will. They did, however, express their willingness to welcome me back should I ever change my mind. On a separate occasion, I also attended my son's wedding, which turned out to be a modest affair with just a few close friends of Natasha and Yura, as well as myself. We gathered at a cozy cafe, indulging in a few drinks before bidding farewell at 10 o'clock in the evening. Overall, the evening went smoothly, aside from a minor incident. As the night came to a close, an unfamiliar young man, dressed impeccably, approached our table. He politely addressed my son, Yuri Yurievich Zagorsky, with an envelope in hand. "Mrs. Shumskaya congratulates you on your wedding," he said. The guests at our table fell silent, apprehensive about this unexpected interaction. My son was the first to respond, firmly declining the gift from a stranger. The young man briefly hesitated, then nodded, placing the unaccepted gift into the inside pocket of his jacket before departing. In that moment, a fleeting image of Michelle crossed my mind from the back of the hall, causing my heart to quicken its pace. Could it be that I still harbored some feelings for her? Wishing the newlyweds happiness, I returned home that very evening. With just a single day of vacation allotted to me, I knew I would be back to work the following day. To be honest, I didn't have a clear understanding of my future role at the bank. I openly expressed my uncertainties to the head of the bank's security service. However, he reassured me, explaining that my primary responsibility would be as a companion to Mrs. Gerber rather than a bodyguard. My role would involve accompanying her to both business and informal meetings, ensuring her constant presence. The responsibility for her physical safety would be entrusted to specially trained professionals. In preparation for my new position, I was issued a plastic pass card along with a Glock 18 pistol and a laminated carry permit in my name. Prior to commencing my duties, I underwent evaluations at both the narcology and psychiatric dispensaries, where I obtained certificates confirming my mental stability and sobriety. Upon presenting these certificates to the head of the bank's security service, he expressed his confidence in me, while remarking that it was necessary to adhere to protocol. Subsequently, he handed me the keys to a car, outlining that I would be required to reside in Inga Sergeyevna's house and be available around the clock. My responsibilities would involve accompanying her to and from work, as well as accompanying her to any other locations she desired. With that, the chief stood up and offered me his hand, wishing me good luck in my new role. On the eve of my inaugural day at work, I made sure to visit the barber shop to get a clean shave and tidy up my appearance. The next morning, I woke up early and carefully selected my attire for the day. Sporting black jeans, a crisp white shirt, and a loose black tweed jacket, I made sure to conceal the holster under my arm. Slipping on my trusty black shoes, I completed my ensemble and donned my coat before making my way to the office. My outfit harked back to a previous chapter in my life, one that I believed would impress even the most discerning hostess. For the time being, I resided in the apartment of a friend who was temporarily abroad, but this arrangement suited me just fine. Driving a sleek black Lexus, I made my way to the crossroad connecting the avenue and the street leading to the exclusive cottage village where I once lived with Michelle. Glancing at the enchanting view of the snow-covered pine trees in the old city park, I could only muster a passing glance before turning my attention to the road and heading towards the bank manager's residence. After 30 minutes of driving, I arrived at my destination. The gates stood ajar, so I drove through and parked my car. The air was bitterly cold as I approached the two-story mansion, nestled deep within the sprawling age-old park. Negotiating the frosted steps carefully, I traversed towards the entrance. The janitor had yet to tend to them, leaving them slippery and devoid of sand or salt to mitigate any potential accidents. Finally, the thaw gave way to a true frost, and a light dusting of snow covered the sidewalks and trees overnight, resembling powdered sugar. As the dim winter sun lazily cast its shaky and uncomfortable light over the icy puddles, I found myself yearning for the approaching night. I pressed the doorbell, and a melodious chime echoed from somewhere inside the house. After a few seconds, the door swung open, revealing a tall, blonde woman with cascading waves of golden hair falling over her shoulders. A corsage with an extended neckline hinted at the curves of her bosom, while a slim waist, lush hips, and long legs completed the captivating sight before me. Her piercing blue eyes left me in a state of near dizziness. A momentary silence stretched between us until the blonde woman spoke first, unhappily asking, "Who are you here for?" "Good morning. I'm here to see Inga Sergeyevna," I replied, momentarily taken aback by her stunning appearance. "Are you selling something?" the maid challenged, staring defiantly into my eyes. "Excuse me. I was too captivated by your beauty," I confessed, my gaze fixed upon her. "Is your curiosity satisfied?" she questioned, her hand instinctively covering a yawn. "I'm rather delighted," I exclaimed, flashing my ID card. "I'm Yuri Zagorsky, and I'll be working for you." She looked at me skeptically. "There's no need to be so concerned," I reassured, offering my most charming smile. "Is Inga Sergeyevna at home?" "Yes," she replied, motioning for me to enter the living room. "Wait here, and I'll inform the landlady of your arrival. What was your name again?" "Zagorsky. Yuri Zagorsky." Valentina introduced herself with a swaying of her hips as she left the room. A few minutes later, she returned and gestured for me to follow her. "The landlady is waiting for you," she said, guiding me towards the door. "She's in there, you can go in." I turned the knob and entered the room, which was long and narrow, with heavily curtained windows that cast a dim light throughout. In the middle of the room stood Inga Sergeyevna, who didn't even glance in my direction. She stood tense and unmoving, staring out the only window that wasn't covered. Her white hair seemed to reflect what little light remained in the room. Today, she wore a blue jacquard jacket with patch pockets, along with a matching short skirt. A neatly folded, starched white handkerchief peeked out from her breast pocket. To say she looked like a refined lady would be an understatement. I waited for a moment, allowing my eyes to adjust to the semi-darkness. Finally, she turned to face me. "Hello, Yuri Ivanovich," she greeted me in a quiet, husky voice. "Are you ready to start work?" "Yes," I replied, staring back at the landlady. Was I informed that I would be living here? She seemed not to hear my question. "Do you have any objections?" she asked. "No objections," I assured her. "Could someone show me to my room?" "Yes, of course." "Valia, please show Yuri Ivanovich to his room," she instructed. Valentina, who had been standing in the doorway, keeping a watchful eye on me, stepped forward to lead the way. The room I was given was on the second floor. It was quite spacious, with a massive oak table, a large comfortable leather armchair, and a sizable bed against one wall. Across from the table, a fireplace adorned with two antique guns added a touch of history to the room. A knight statue stood proudly on the table, surrounded by several books. Valentina lingered in the doorway, maintaining her steady gaze on me. "Please calm down, Michelle. Let's have a civilized conversation about this. I understand that you're hurt and upset, but yelling won't help us find a resolution." Michelle's face was flushed with anger as she took a deep breath, attempting to regain her composure. She had managed to track down my address and arrived unannounced last night, clearly hoping to create a scene. Initially, I had considered ignoring her and not letting her in, but I didn't want her shouting to disturb the entire neighborhood. "Michelle, let's address the issue at hand. What exactly do you want from me? Do you expect me to reconcile you with your son?" I spoke in a calm tone, making an effort to keep my voice steady. Tears welled up in Michelle's eyes as she replied, But he not only didn't invite me to the wedding, but he also rejected the gift I gave him. I felt a pang of empathy for Michelle, understanding the pain she must have been experiencing. However, I couldn't take responsibility for all the choices she had made in her relationship with her son. I'm sorry that you're going through this, Michelle, but I can't take on the burden of your strained relationship with your son. It's not my place to intervene in your family matters. You showed in your lover and allowed him to witness something inappropriate. These actions have consequences, and it's something you need to address with him directly, I explained, maintaining my composed demeanor. Michelle seemed taken aback by my response, her initial anger slowly dissipating. "You're right," she whispered, her voice filled with regret. "I guess I was just hoping for your support and guidance." I softened my expression, understanding the complexity of her emotions. "Michelle, I understand that you're hurting, but I can't fix your relationship with your son. However, I can offer you my support and encourage you to have an open and honest conversation with him. It's important to take responsibility for our actions and try to make amends." Michelle nodded, tears now streaming down her face. "Thank you for being honest with me. I'll try to have that conversation with my son and hope for a chance to mend our relationship." I offered her a gentle smile. "I'm here for you, Michelle. Remember, sometimes healing takes time and effort, but it's worth it in the end. Don't give up on trying to rebuild your connection with your son." With a sigh, she wiped her tears away and nodded, her demeanor showing a glimmer of determination. We took a seat and spent the next hour discussing strategies to repair her fractured relationship with her son, offering guidance and support along the way. In front of me sat a stunning young woman, dressed in an elegant evening gown and a luxurious fur coat. She used to be my wife, and I couldn't help but be captivated by her beauty. However, the atmosphere quickly turned tense as a wave of resentment washed over us. "You know, it's quite a spectacle to see you decline the job I offered you at my company, only to rush towards that woman Inge. When she beckons," I expressed, my voice tinged with bitterness. "Do you have something going on with her? Is she your lover? If she stays in my sight a second longer, I'll give her a piece of my mind." Michelle couldn't contain her emotions any longer and snapped, losing control. Her frustration poured out. Her anger toward me filled the room. "How dare you, Michelle? Let's not forget that you were the one who cheated on me with Shumsky for 6 whole months. You were the one who heartlessly walked away from our marriage and into his arms. Do you remember how you stood by, completely indifferent, as his thugs attempted to harm me? You have no right to make any claims on me." I met her intense gaze, refusing to back down. "And our son? That's a decision for you to make. He's a grown man now, capable of choosing who he wants to be with. Now please leave. I have work tomorrow." As Michelle turned to leave, a hint of guilt seemed to flicker in her eyes, though she tried to conceal it.